Hi, I'm Natalia Nicholson, founder of Women in Digital Business, where we empower underrepresented women to thrive in the digital world. Welcome everybody today to our weekly Tuesday Lunch and Learn. It's midday and my name is Natalia and I'm the founder of Women in Digital Business. Every Tuesday we bring you a masterclass. A masterclass is going to really help you to get ahead in business, get seen, be visible online, because the world is changing, ladies. And I tell you something, more and more, I do a lot of consulting. The Women in Digital Business community is all about helping women become visible and grow a personal brand. And we do that by building funnels. Funnels are a really essential part of the internet and digital marketing. It's a way that you could automate your business. And it's also a way that you really understand how you're going to take your end user from one customer touch point to another. You know, when you try to find your customers, it's not like a one night stand. And I find many businesses treat it very much like a, let me introduce myself, kind of a low loaders entrepreneurial psycho babble. And I talk from my own experience, by the way, not judging anyone, I'm judging myself here. And what we do is we give this long spiel and then we say, so are you interested? This person knows nothing about you. So imagine if you are doing that online where you haven't got sight, smell, taste, hearing and touch. You haven't got any of the human elements that draw us together. You can't look into someone's eyes. You can't pick up a vibe or energy. Yes, sometimes you can do it through a screen, but not all the time. Makes sense? And the funnel enables you to really strategically think about, how will I meet someone and nurture a relationship? We're not on the phone, we're not in person anymore. So how we build trust and how we build relationships is by nurturing. Okay. And as much as we can network and as much as we can speak to people, we nurture through email, through messaging, through specific web pages designed to talk about a specific pain point to a specific customer segment. So the funnel becomes this user journey that's a strategy of how you're really going to elevate your business and how you're really going to get going. Okay, makes sense? So one of the things we're going to be looking at today is actually how to master a masterclass, because one of the main things that most of you are going to be doing is some form of videos, some form of webinar, some form of teaching, some form of coaching. You're going to be doing something that lets your audience know exactly what you do and to be able to build up those relationships. So many of you might give a taster call, a taster session. You might have events set up, you might have a webinar, you know, even if it was an ebook and it's written communication, you're going to have to learn how to tell a story. You're going to have to learn how to deliver some type of a masterclass, especially if you're a coach or a consultant. Even if you're e-commerce, it's about having a story. Okay, it's about humanizing something with a story. So what we're going to be looking at today is really understanding how to create a masterclass that brings leads away. One of the biggest problems a lot of coaches and consultants and those that sell digital products have is, how do we do that, man, without giving all the information away? And sometimes there can be a grey area and a very fine line between, okay, understanding that you can give value, and I used to sit in this place for a long time and giving away way too much value. Like there was a point that I used to run masterclasses that I think people didn't feel the need to even come to any of my sessions because it was so much value. But our brand is built on value and it's built on giving women the information they need. We make sure we serve our audience. So you've got to get all the different moving compartments right. Does that make any sense? You do need to give away. Yes, you don't want to give too much away. So how do you create a really powerful masterclass without giving it all away and making your prospects see the value that they can get with working with you? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We're going to share the entire screen. Don't judge me. Can I move it fast enough? Yes, I can. That you did not have to be. You didn't have to go through seeing my 50,000 tabs open. So what we want to do is be able to have a masterclass. And what your masterclass really is your brand story. And storytelling is how you're going to connect to people. Storytelling is how you can create connections and human connections. Because your job is to essentially use technology, whether it's a phone, a tablet, or your laptop, to be able to forge and create human connection. So within that human connection, what today's masterclass is going to kind of figure you out is to define your personal brand story. Your masterclass is actually your personal brand story, and you're going to learn how to build your brand story and just increase visibility by storytelling. So one of the things you really want to think about is, what is the impact of what you do? What does it have on your end user? And this should be all the emotional. This shouldn't be a fact sheet of list of things. You really want to think about the benefit, like the impact that it has on someone. So from an emotional viewpoint, does that make any sense? You really want to be thinking to yourself, like, what impact, like, how does it change my prospect? And we've worked on this before, by the way. When we're talking about prospects and target audiences, within your target audiences, you should have customer segments. So now that you've really thought to yourself, okay, what impact do I have? Like, what do I bring to the table for my prospects? Okay, what is the impact? How do I change their life? What you now want to think about is like the how. So how are you going to inform them? Okay, is that information through the book, the video? It's going to be some type of masterclass, but how do you inform them? And this is really all the tools and tactics that you're going to use in your customer journey or in your funnel. And really, this boils down to software, platforms, downloads. Like, how are you going to inform them? Our audiences like their information in different ways. What's the best way for your customer segment that is going to make it really informative, and it's a great, easy way for them to digest the information? Okay, how are you going to inspire them? You know, how are you going to give them that drive to actually cross the line and accept what it is that you're offering? Okay, and the income. You know, most people are either looking for income, they're looking for relationship, or they're looking for some type of personal connection of some type of form, something to do with wealth. Whether wealth comes in mindset, it comes in money, it comes in your health, it comes in your finances. You know, income usually relates to one of those emotive things. So what is the quantitative thing that they're going to get? In most cases, income, but it's not always income. Okay, income means that you can have better finances to do the things that you want to do. It means that you can be healthier to live longer and look after yourself. It means that you can have the right mindset to be able to excel forward. Okay, so you really need to think about what is the format of how you're going to tell your story. You're going to think about your storytelling system. There's loads of systems out there, but they all really equate to the same thing: who, what, where, how, when. The story, the hook, the offer, the beginning, the middle, the end. You know, Disney does it where it says introduce the character, introduce the conflict. How do we overcome the conflict? That's how Hollywood does it. So it's always good to have a system. Okay, and coming onto the funnel mastery programs where you start to learn about a system that you can put things into place. So what you want to really do is you want to create a hunger. So you want to start with the pain of where they're at. Think about where your audience is today. What is it in relation to what you offer that is a really big challenge or a pain point? That thing that's just a really pain in the bum. Okay, what you want to do is change what they're deleting. So what I mean by that, change what they're deleting, is that you'll often find with human nature that it's always somebody else's fault. It is innate human behavior. Every single one of us, including me as I'm sitting here, have a tendency of when things go wrong to blame. And there's that annoying expression that there's three fingers that point back to yourself when you point. So you've got to change what they're deleting. Those limited beliefs. Make sense? You have to use softening words to make sure that what you're introducing to get your prospect to take accountability is more words like perhaps, maybe, potentially. For those of you that are coaches and consultants, like talking at someone and pointing, for instance, one of the worst things you can do because it makes them feel attacked. When you feel attacked, what do? You put your arms up to defend. So what you want to do is just point out more the consequences of the choices that is having on your prospect's life and explain that that is a block. And what you want to do is kind of take them over an epiphany bridge to get them to understand that these are the tools, this is what you need to be able to make sure that those consequences don't stop you from getting where you need to be. You know, paint that picture of the possibilities of what would happen if only they introduced the X, Y, and Z that you've got to offer, but you're not selling. You want to focus on the lifestyle benefits, like focus on, you know, what reaching the solution is in terms of the product that you offer. Okay, if you are a coach and I don't know, you help couples through difficult time, the lifestyle benefits is now that you can travel and enjoy each other's company and have someone to go in retirement with and live the life that you want, feeling the love that you want and the partner that you want. Make sense? So you're not actually selling fixing the relationship, you're almost selling what happens when that relationship is fixed and all the things and the possibilities that come after that you've been yearning for and wanting for. So it's about creating a gap between the problem and the result. And your subject must be the gap. That's the epiphany. That's the as Oprah would call it, the aha moment. So you've got to create hunger, okay? And you've got to be able to position your subject. So for example, it's really important to focus on positioning the focus because one, people always do want a reason. Like I said, that's how we instantly can kind of go to the blame culture. So is the reason why your prospect not getting ahead because the job market and maybe they need to upskill themselves? Is the reason important for the focus to get independent and financial wealth because your prospect comes from a background where they really want to be able to provide happiness and wealth for their family and their wider family around them and their family that's about to come in terms of legacy? Is it important, the position of the subject, because your prospect wants more time? Many of us are incredibly time poor. When I read all these posts online about self-love and carving out time, and when your battery's low, you've got to take that calm out. Yeah, that's great. But with 3 kids, a husband, a house, a business, yeah, that's not always possible and realistic. So some people are yearning for more time. Is it, important to someone to get the results because they need fulfillment? They've got personal goals. They've been struggling with something and they're just on this hamster wheel. They don't feel fulfilled. They never feel like they're going to reach their goals. So make sure you position your subject and its importance of what it is that your prospect's going to get. And you really want to focus on this. Okay, so it's really important when you're telling your story. You've got Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And this is exactly, by the way, how Hollywood works. So I'm going to give you an example of what this looks like if you were Simba from Lion King. Okay. So Act 1 is that you see, the cycle of life and you see everyone living happily. You see little Simba marching around. He's got a happy life. He's got a dad that seems like the best dad in the world. He's got a mum. He's surrounded by love, and you're introducing the characters. You've got Simba, you've got the mum, you've got the dad, you've got his best friend Nyla, and they're one big happy family. The dad rules over the kingdom. He's teaching his son all the teachings to become the next great king, but it's all about the circle of life. Then Kra, the uncle, comes along. The baddie comes along, and that's the conflict. Kra wants his brother's position, and he knows to get his brother's position, he has to get rid of Simba, and he has got a lot of jealousy. So this is the conflict. And this is now where, as viewers, we're all searching, thinking, oh my God, what's about to happen here? You can see it's all brewing. Okay? It brews, and, the uncle convinces Simba that he killed the dad. It was actually him. Simba can't take the guilt and the shame. He goes off to Kuma Matata. He meets his new friend and decides that he's just going to banish himself because he doesn't want to go and conflict that. He doesn't want to go and face that conflict. He then starts to grow up. He has a dream one night. The circle of life. Nyla comes to him, tells him to go back home, gives him the Act 3 answer. Okay, so he's now had this vision. He's got the answers. He goes back home and he takes down Kra and he restores order, and it's a happy ending. Most, if not all, Hollywood films follow that exact same format. The problem, introducing the characters, the conflict. What's the conflict? What are they searching for? Then the answer, which is overcoming the conflict. So your job is to set a scene. And when you want to be emotional and to really nail storytelling, you want to talk about, what you saw in that time. Your story is going to be a big why on why people are going to be compelled to you. If you can tell your story and people can relate to your story, they're going to feel like they can relate to you, and they feel like they can relate to your product and service or your why or your vision, depending on what your business model is. So this has to be adapted. This isn't an exact framework and science because all our businesses are different. The model's different, the customer segment's different, how it's set up's different. So you're going to have to take that on board. So with the scene, you want it to be, you want to be able to place a scene, set a scene. What is the smell? What is the visual? visual? What's the emotion that you were feeling? You know, the suspense. What's that unknown masked character? You know, making sure that as you're talking, you're answering. You can answer questions, even if you've got a pre-recorded masterclass. You can ask questions like you're talking to someone. Someone gets a feel of that human connection again. You know, the uncertainty, the outcome that they really don't want, the uneasy feelings. You know, you want to step out of the scene and relate to what's going on around you, how you felt at the time. And then you kind of want to search, you know, characterize, you know, get into character, converse, dialogue. You really want to be able to tell a story. The art of storytelling is no different to reading a really good book. The difference is this book is your book. It's your story. And it's the reason why somebody should work from you or buy from you. And then, you know, you just need to kind of figure out like who you are. Like, I'm someone that is quite excitable. I talk really fast. I'm high energy, but that's me. That doesn't need to be you. You know, we often make the mistake when we are putting together our digital products or we're putting together lead magnets. We often make the mistake of seeing something that we like or seeing something that someone's offering. There's so many communities and courses and programs out there that literally will say, follow my system and you can make it. Nah, that's your system. You've got to create your own system because only you know who your customer segments are. Only you know who you are. So there is no point doing all of that because what you'll find is you're going to take away the one thing that's going to win you clients, and that's your vulnerability and your authenticity. That's what makes a cracking masterclass in a story, being completely vulnerable and laying it on the table of saying this is why and keeping that realness. In this busy marketplace, it's so important. Sorry. It's me shouting and talking and all. So you need to figure out, you know, have you got a medium pace? Is it rhythmic? Has it got clarity to it? Maybe that's you. Maybe you're fast, loud and punchy like a ninja like me. But sometimes I've over the years had to learn that when I get really excited to bring it back down again, get my pace right, have a cough, have a sip of water and kind of bring it back down. But because of how my voice is, it means that I can bring something up, I can bring it down. Does that make any sense? And the more you do something, practice becomes permanent. When I look back at my old videos, I think I'm going to do a session one day so you can all see how terrible I was in the beginning. Now there's people like my husband that's probably watched me grow up from just stumbling over my words, having sweaty palms, getting out of breath, getting my flow of what I'm saying. You've just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But you've got to find your style of framework and your style of communication. Maybe you're slow, breaking pauses, but that works for you because that's you. And you know what? If someone doesn't like it, you're going to keep hearing me say this in this community. They're just not your audience. Simple. They're not your audience. You know, you are you. Be authentic, and the people that love you and want to buy from you will. Those that have got a problem with it and want you to change it, they're not your audience. Small things, you know, make sure you smile while you're talking. You know, if you are doing something live, you know, make sure you randomly select people in the audience. I mean, I know most of you know this type of stuff, but sometimes when you're in it, you can forget. So if I'm talking live, I'll always randomly select people in the audience to connect eye contact. If I'm speaking to camera, my eye contact is the lens. And sometimes in a situation like this with a webinar, I can forget. But if you watch a lot of my videos, I'm quite conscious that if I'm trying to get a point across, my face is in the camera because I know that that's my audience. Okay, so you want to look directly in their eyes when they're speaking. You want to smile while they're speaking. They want to feel your energy, even if you're storytelling. If you're sad, there's times where I tell my story and it's powerful. There's other times I tell my story, it's incredibly vulnerable because I might be in a low place. And when I start to remember back some low times, quite recently I filmed a masterclass and I felt it. I felt the emotion. Like I actually felt the lump in my throat and I had to swallow it back. And that doesn't happen to me very often. But that's the type of emotion that you want to get at. You want to come from a place of truth. And it's important to make sure that you hold eye contact, especially as you're learning to do video content and use the video. That video and that lens, that is your audience. And let your emotions shine through, whether you want to have that raw vulnerability and pain, whether you want to laugh, whether you want to smile, whether you want to be loud, whether you want to be more quiet. That is who you're, you know, telling your story to as a camera. You know, you can create a picture by moving with purpose. That's how a lot of videos get created now, where it will jump from one scene to another. That moving and learning to walk around a space, use props. Props are really important. Okay, I just come back from Las Vegas from Funnel Hacking Live, and there was a speaker there talking about props and how it elevated her business. And using props can be great for analogy. It means that you can explain things better. It just means that you can create a scene, and that storytelling becomes really real. And you can also use acting, and you can also use humor. So create a stage, create a space. When you see people moving around the stage or they're using props, that's no different to the videos that are on TikTok and Instagram, where they go from one space to another space to give you a series of messages that makes up one reel, okay, or makes up one video. What you're doing is you're storytelling. So lean into that technique, commit the entire story, because it's not just for your masterclass and what you're giving away that's going to win clients. Actually, for your content strategy on social media, it's also absolutely key. Okay, so just some reflections, given the consideration on skills, behaviors, and knowledge of what makes an entrepreneur, just look at different people. Okay, so for instance, you've got people like Lord Billimer's entrepreneurial potential. I used him because he's an interesting case study that I use for my entrepreneur students. I teach an entrepreneurial program that I put together for York University, and he launched the Bear Cobra. It's a brand new onto the market in place, and you could imagine launching a bear as an Indian man in a predominantly white middle class market in a crowded, forget even just race, a crowded marketplace. Anything that's FMCG, trying to launch in that type of space is tough. But think about, if you're now starting out today, would your challenges be the same as it was all the way back then? Back then with someone like Cobra Bear, you didn't have social media, you didn't have video. Does that make any sense? So as well, what I want you to do with your storytelling is also look at, the world and look at people and brands that you aspire to be. Does that make sense? And what's the one trait or attitude that you think is the most important factor for your brand? Okay, really important. So that's a case study I use for some of my entrepreneurial students, but you guys aren't students, you've actually got your own business. So start to look at what I'm saying in brands that you aspire to, in your competitors, in your direct competitors. Start to look to see, does that make any sense? Like, what's their story? What's their why? What's their brand story? How's it told? And start looking at that. If you want to practice becomes permanent, you need to practice, but you also need to look at, okay, let me figure out my style. Let me figure out who I am, because there's a big element of figuring out who you are to be really successful at storytelling. So, just looking at archetypes quickly as we finish up. So just figure out, like, what's your archetype? Is it the MI5? Is it the warrior? Are you the person that likes to wave their hands? That's me. Call people to action. Make sure you set new standards. Like, what do you stand for? Really important. Are you the lover, open and honest, speaks from the heart, got open palm gestures? Okay. Are you the sage, speaks a deeper truth, connected to a higher power and shares power? Are you the jester, likes to laugh at themselves? I use humor a lot. Rather than, I would never want to humiliate or make anybody else feel any shame. So you know what? I can laugh at myself to get a point across. Okay, so are you that jester, burst their own age, spontaneous, asymmetrical jesters? Think about people like Jim Carrey. There's comedians that have a style, and that's what's gotten them to where they are. I'm not suggesting you become comedians, by the way. Just look at the art more of storytelling. Are you the sovereign? Are you the person that takes charge, owns the stage? More palms down gesture. Are you the neutral? Are you the stop position, move out from, come back to? Balance, still hands. Start to look at TEDx talks that you really enjoy. Start to look at, sorry, there we go. Always Amazon to interrupt you in a webinar. Are you that, that neutral person? That's what I was saying, sorry. So TEDx, think about people that you love to follow. Like, I really like Byron Myron, for example. That his style's not my style, but I'm just giving you an example. Sometimes the way that he explains things with the analogy that relates back to the Bible and the spirituality, I love it. I can connect with it. And it also makes me think about, well, how can I make my storytelling better? Because he's a really good storyteller. Make sense? Rachel Rogers, I really like her. Everybody's got people that we follow. Start looking at their storytelling. Start looking at how they perform, how they tell their story. And what you'll start to notice is that from storytelling, of telling your story in 5 minutes, or if you've got a program that you're teaching for a week, it's all the same story. You just got a really short version, a long version, a longer long version. And for coaches and consultants, that's true. Even for e-commerce, you've got a story, and that rest of that story is fulfilled by products that people buy and displayed in their lives, which is what creates user-generated content. Okay, so any questions, put them into the chat, but just a few checkpoints. Like, try not to use the same gestures, especially when you're doing videos. You know, if you're not sure what to do at any point when you're delivering, whether you're sitting down, standing up, you're doing videos, just go back to that neutral position, which is kind of like hands down the front. Sorry, I'm on camera, so you can't quite see. Standing up, legs slightly apart, and sit up. Do you see what I just did there? Naturally, I'm sitting like this. You know, it's important that you try to still up, and I'm always doing that. Use characters, use props, use gestures. Let your emotion drive your movement. You know, show and tell could be a circle of actions, whether you're on a stage, whether you're in front of the camera, you're jumping from scene to scene. Use bigger gestures for bigger audiences. And that's why video, even though you're doing it by yourself, and sometimes you can feel like a bit of a, oh my God, who's watching me? You're going to a big audience. You know, have an animated space and just make sure you're smiling and have a standard gesture. So these are just a few things to think about in terms of structuring your story and how you tell it and how you can put together a really great story. And it depends on what that format is. Go back to what I said, impact and inform. How are you actually going to be able to inform? What format are you going to use? Oh, sorry guys, I need to come back to you. There we go. Here I am. So just have just have a think about that. Right, I can see questions popping off in the chat. Sorry, I was sharing screen and I got so into it. Me all over. Right, for any of you that can hear, I'm so sorry. It's half term. I have children home and hopefully they're not being too noisy. So Josephine said, I agree. Storytelling always saves the day, for sure. Oh, Beverly said, very true. Susan, this explains so much. Thank you for putting words that I've been feeling. Oh, I'm glad, Susan. That makes my heart sing. Thank you. I'm yearning for so much time. Oh, my God. Motherhood. Just so you know, I'm keeping it real. I've got 3 kids in the background. I'm about to take them to the park. I need to get a proposal over for a funnel that I'm building for the client by this afternoon. I've got Slack messages going off left, right, and centre. That's why sometimes when I read these posts of your battery low, there are some times where your battery could be depleted, but you kind of still got to you still got to keep going. As long as you make sure that when your body's really saying to you, rest, that you do. Sometimes it's not always as simple as that. And yes, we're working towards it. But girl, Rachel, I feel you on the motherhood thing. Bookmarking this masterclass, like it's, oh, thank you, Stephanie, appreciate that. Yeah, they are not your audience. Should hit home. If someone is like saying, well, what about this, what about that, or even if someone's giving advice, they're not your audience. All you can do is show up and be you. Why would you want to be anything else? Why should you change yourself? And I just feel like as Black women, it's just something that's been enforced on us over and over again. It's just annoying. Like, we've always got to change. No, you haven't got to change. You know, you need to find an audience that resonates you so you can be your true, authentic self, because nothing beats being successful, leveling up and doing something you enjoy doing. If you're going to be someone else, you don't enjoy what you're doing. And actually, it just tears your inner self-confidence down. It really does. Keshrin, no problem. Keep it authentic from now on. So ladies, it's 12:30. That's my my weekly dose of lunch and learn. I will see you back here next week. Please make sure, if you are not on the wait list for the Funnel Queen Mastery Program, get on the wait list. The numbers are growing. It's looking like we're going to be opening up a second cohort. Register your details. We'll be announcing exactly when it's going to start. If you haven't listened to the masterclass, that kind of explains exactly what you're going to learn, and it goes through exactly what you'll get out of it, please do. It's a program that really, really breaks down and allows you to put a strategic customer journey together, really thinking, you know, looking at your brand, how am I going to make my audience aware of me? How will I get them to consider and engage? How will I collect leads? How will I convert those leads? How will I get them excited to upsell to them? How will I get brand ambassadors and get reviews to get user-generated content? You know, how will I then get people to promote me? Famous word of mouth. And how will I put together together a content plan that supports my brand and who I am to help drive traffic into that funnel, also known as the customer journey. It's about planning it out in great detail so you can then work on becoming visible and block out all the tech overwhelm, block out all the noise of doing a webinar, doing an ebook, being on every single social media channel, doing videos, writing blogs, doing LinkedIn. It's exhausting. So the program just helps you put it into perspective of what you need to do to get your business ahead, to find the right audience. And we work together on a 6-week program to do that. Once you've got that plan in place, you now know exactly what you need to go away and do, where you need to maybe upskill yourself, where you maybe need to get a freelancer, or maybe you can get someone in to do it for you, but at least you've got a plan for them now, and a plan that you can monitor. So details are in the chat. If you haven't listened to the masterclass, check it out. Go on the wait list if you're ready for it. If you're still at ideology stage, it might not be for you, but quit hanging out in the community. Make sure you log in. There's a digital boot camp if you are ideology stage that will help you massively to kind of understand who's your audience, exactly what a funnel is, and more at that beginning stage. But if you've got a digital product, you've got a program, you're a content creator, coach, and consultant, and you're ready to sell, the program, the Funnel Queen Mastery program, is definitely mind-blowing. Okay, so links are in the chat, ladies. As always, it's a pleasure. And I will see you next week, Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.